to find out as Mad Lions on the blue side taking on G2 Esports in our penultimate game of the week. And I want to see more from Mad Lions. Yesterday, they got smashed by Misfits. And today, they're coming up against G2. So let's see what G2 can do. They had a very, very confident game yesterday. Karthus in the hands of Jankos. Reminded me of, I think, last spring. We had that montage clip of just press R, press R, press R. And he did it again.
I find it funny that we heard Caps talking on stream at the beginning of the week about how one of the reasons why Perkz moved to mid lane was because the role can be very exhausting for some players, and so for Perkz to go back to mid lane, he can have a lot more fun. He can enjoy the role a lot more, right? And then he's put on Ornn duty, right? And you're like, hey, welcome back to mid lane, dude. It's Ornn, it's Soraka. Hope you're having a bunch of fun. And then Caps is down the bot lane being like, woo!
Look at this way. If playing different champions than you have played historically, and that maybe that's fun.
Or maybe he thinks Ornn is fun. I don't know. I don't.
If he does, I think he's a sociopath. But we'll have to find out. Look, let's talk a little bit about the game because, of course, Mad Lions, they're up in a difficult task. Last week, G2, they fumbled the ball. They dropped 2 games. It feels like after seeing yesterday's level of performance that little speed wobble hasn't continued.
I would say it still wasn't like clean G2, but then it's one of those things where I think during regular season you can't expect clean G2. They just don't seem to take the games as seriously as they do many others. We'll see how they treat Mad today, because at the beginning of the split, Mad did cause them some problems, so we'll see if the same early game issues tend to rise up for them. We're jumping into Champions Select very soon. We're going to be having Mad versus G2 Esports. I'm looking forward. I have my eyes on Mickey. We've been chatting a little bit this week, and he's been telling me that he's got some stuff prepared. I don't know if he's trolling me or if he actually has some cool stuff planned.
Well, he better have some stuff planned because we're hoping to have him on the Castle Desk in Game 5
That's very true.
Well.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a moment or two. I was trying to listen to the whoa, but you just kept talking through it, my man. Let's jump into the draft, of course. Mad Lions on the blue side, they're taking away the Gragas as well as the Syndra, followed by Rakan and Soraka. So we get rid of those. The Ornn is still up and available. Aphelios too as well, and Kiana been taken away. I think this is a self-ban actually, because Jankos on Kiana probably would have helped Mad Lions out a little bit, I think. And we'll see now what this final ban from G2 is going to be.
I wonder if G2 banned the Gangplank. It's something that Orome has recently been defaulting to. No, okay, they're going to ban the Ornn. That's fine. Yesterday, we did see Orome actually first pick the GP. I'm not a massive fan because there are many counters to that champion. And while he does scale well and offer a lot with his ultimate, I think it's a very risky first pick. Aphelios is open, and I think that should be the highest priority right now for Mad. But
instead, I was wondering about.
Really?
But now remember as well, this is a denial.
It doesn't matter to me. Like, every mid laner is open.
Yeah.
Like, everything is... So, right now, Perkz can pick Lissandra on 3, right? That would be the easiest choice for him. And then on 1 and 2 for red side, they can pick their jungler. They can pick the Aphelios if they want to. The priority looks like it's going to be in the Misfortune. And I wonder if this is G2 saying, we think Carzzy doesn't play Aphelios. We know that you're a big MF player, so we're actually just going to take this away from you and, well, okay, let's now figure out if you can play Aphelios or not.
Where does Set fit into the equation as well? Because he is open and available. He's had very high priority. We've talked a lot about that. I know you prefer him being picked a little later in the draft when it's more of a counter, shall I say?
But well, I prefer it when there's more information available, but to be fair, when you think about what are safe blind picks, Aatrox is something that in Europe we like to go for. Whether or not it's a good blind pick is still very debatable, but at the very least,
I like to clarify
that is what Europe has a tendency to do. So for now, you still got a pretty open-ended comp from G2, no clear direction, but from Mad Lions, what you need now is a strong early game jungler to pair up with the LeBlanc. At least Lee Sin, we know that Shadow is a big Lee Sin fan, but if you're going to commit to the LeBlanc, then you need to pair it up with something that does give you a strong mid-jungle duo. Ding. And now to round things out, I think you need to prioritize getting your AD carry. Can you actually play the Aphelios?
If it's not Aphelios, what would you like to see next in order?
I mean, Braum would be the only other thing I would consider, and I don't even like the Braum, but I think it's good into the Misfortune, and I think that it gives you a lot of options later on. But, okay, to be fair, they do know that the enemy top laner is, and they can go for both the Set and the Gangplank, so I think this is perfectly fine. Right now, Mad Lions are drafting themselves a very early game focused comp, a very dangerous thing to do against a team like G2 Esports. Of course, while G2 have had varying degrees of shaky early games, they're a team that knows how to stall effectively, so if you ever give them the better scaling comp, and then Seshwani gets locked in for Jankos. For those that don't know, there's a big meme around. Look at Jankos' face right now. His hands are in his head. He is so visibly upset right now.
I really hope that somebody was recording that, but yes, he threw his hands into his head.
There must have been so much internal debate.
If I recall correctly, when Mad Lions beat G2 Esports last time, it was from an early game advantage that they were able to snowball. They got themselves ahead. And
well, the first time G2 and Mad met, G2 fell behind in the early game, and then they were able to come back later on.
That's right. Sorry, that's right. I apologize. That was in week 1, in fact, the opening game. So let's see now, between then and now, what else can Mad Lions do? Can they pull ahead any further? What I did like, though, Venis, is that you talked a lot about the GP. It could have come in. We saw it hovered. The set was eventually locked in. There. Fellas finally finds himself in the ban pool. So the Braum, where does that fall into the scale? Neither team has locked in their supports just yet. And we need to see the AD carry as well on the side of Mad Lions.
So the problem with locking in Braum right now is that Mad Lions don't have a lot of reliable engage. I think that if they want more engage tools, they could consider something like a Nautilus or a Leona. But it's very risky to pick that blind. Obviously, they're going to be able to see the bot lane of G2 unless they want to pick their mid laner now. Lissandra is still up and available if they want to do it. I personally think that it's a really good matchup into the LeBlanc, especially if you still run the Aftershock. You have a lot of setup, and it forces the LeBlanc to go into the cleanse as well. Okay, so he's going for a little bit more of a skill matchup. It doesn't really surprise me because it's Perkz. This is not the buffed Sylas that did happen on 10.4. I've actually been watching Perkz play a lot of Sylas mid lane. He has very mixed opinions on it on stream. Often he says that this champion is either useless or giga OP. Clearly he's feeling it for this game. We can talk a little bit more about the matchup. I'm a big fan of some of the intricacies that do happen in this bot lane. But will we get to... Yes, we will.
Oh,
nice.
Yes, interesting.
All right. So we've actually been seeing quite a lot of Kalista. I think we've seen it over in North America. We've definitely seen it over in the LCK. And Taric is something we've seen a lot of over in the LCK. Well, I say a lot of. We saw it today. It's definitely shown its face. This provides more engage for the Mad Lions comp. It is a very strong anti-team fight mechanic, largely because of the ultimate that's available. We get to see...
Hold that thought. Anti-team fight mechanic, as they're hovering through the last few options. What would you like to see as a support? The Braum still there. It's going to be the safe, the reliable, the Nautilus.
Mikyx so boring.
You know we don't talk about hobbits, Venis.
Yeah, I know, but I was like, ooh, ooh, ooh.
That's why you don't talk about it.
Because I think Poppy would have been great here for the record.
When I saw Poppy and I looked at the options at Mad Lions, run it, you set, jump it, you lead, jump it, like everybody wants to be in your face.
Also, I'm now thinking, like, what happens when you Poppy shield against a set ultimate? Do you just, like, stop, or do you keep going? Like, anyway, we don't get to find out. Instead, we're going to see Nautilus, which is fine. Nautilus is a fine champion.
It's not fine, it is boring. Poppy would have been better. But in terms of the comp, what does it mean?
In terms of the comp, it offers a little bit more engage. It offers good follow-up. I think the Nautilus ultimate is often really good against the LeBlanc because it's something that she can't avoid, and it knocks you up for the duration that your passive gets popped for. So if you get burst out and then the ultimate follows through, it's very easy to then chase you down with that composition. But regardless, overall, Mad Lions, very early game focused comp, bot side focused especially. You expect the LeBlanc to get early priority in the mid lane and use this pressure to try and influence the bot side of the map. Try and camp the caps lane, which, as Misfits have demonstrated, can be an effective strategy. However, for G2, they're going much more towards the scaling. They have a lot of teamfight options late gaming. They have a lot of teamfight options later into the game. They can also play side lanes very effectively. Sylas is a real monster in the late game, especially in the 1v1. So let's see how things play out, because I'm really excited for this mid lane matchup, especially as G2 go up against Mad.
The thing that I find interesting is the two compositions are polar opposites, right? On one hand, you've got sort of a reliable, consistent, sort of, like you said, scaling and teamfight. But if Mad Lions can get ahead, if they can use these aggressive, proactive tools to their advantage, this is going to be a very exciting composition to watch. Kalista chucking in either, Taric with his ultimate as well, followed by the Lee Sin, the LeBlanc. There's a lot of tools there to play with. Single teleport on the side of Mad Lions just in Set's hands. Humanoid running the Ignite, and there's double TPs on the side of G2 Esports. So this early game, what can Mad Lions do? They got a lead in week 1 against G2, but they were not able to convert it. And I want to see if they've learned since then.
So, I kind of want to start with this bot lane matchup and then transition into the mid one, mainly because I haven't really gotten to look closely at a lot of Kalista play, especially when paired up with Taric. So I'm really curious as to who's able to get the early push. Expectations for me would be that Kalista would get the early push, and something that Mikyx was actually talking to me about I think last week was that in Nautilus lanes, sometimes you actually want to let your opponents push early because you have such good gank setup. It's actually better for you to force them to overextend and then try and freeze the wave into a spot where you can then look to set up plays a little bit later on and take more of the defensive approach so that once you hit that level 3 mark, you actually have really strong gank setup. But we'll see what he decides to do. You'll notice that already a very good trade in the mid lane. But if we quickly pan over to the bot lane, you'll notice that Caps and Mikyx did not provide a pull for their jungler, which means that they should actually be able to get the early push, but they're choosing not to do it.
So when you say early push, at what point do you feel like the Make It Rain and the Riptides will be able to sort of push that back out? Because I feel like when those come up, that should give those two some counter push opportunities, but understand you're going to need a few levels and get into the wave to do it, and you open yourself up to trades.
Well, what happens in early laning phases is pretty much the wave dictates who gets to do what for like the first 1, 2, 3 levels. Because if there's a big enough wave and you get your levels first, then you just naturally get to trade earlier, right? In this situation, we can see that the wave is actually very even, but the wave is pan out because Caps and Mikyx started hitting it first. It should actually be pushing towards them, but Mad bot lane gonna get the level 2 first, gonna equalize out, so no one's actually focusing on getting early push, right? So the priority right now is not to try and set up for any early plays. They're gonna keep the lane very neutral, and it looks like that Jankos is actually pathed down towards bot. Done red into Raptors. Shadow looks like he wasn't expecting that, as he's actually hanging around the top side, and Jankos gonna sneak in. Mikyx does have the hook available, and now they're looking for the play.
Dredge line, level 2. Needs to find a target. Carzzy, flash, Kaiser, flash as well. Here comes Mikyx, needs to get the bonk. Not gonna find a dredge line, will connect, body slam as well. Kaiser's now burning down from the ignite, stunned out, one more auto. First blood, 2 Caps, and they're not done just yet. That's a root onto Carzzy, and now G2 will back away.
But now look in the top lane, we can see that Mad is trying to make a counterplay on the opposite side of the map.
Gigantic minion wave to work with. Wunder gets caught out, takes a lot of damage. Minions enlisted as well. The tower's helping out. Orome stays alive. A Shadow needs to back away. The tower's there as well, and Wunder stays inside the wave.
Perkz does have TP, not using it. Shadow misses the Q, and Wunder's able to get out with his life. Beautifully played by the G2 top laner to avoid losing so much farm and XP and not giving away that first kill.
Really nicely done. The counterplay from Shadow. The moment that Jankos showed on the bottom lane, he stepped in. But crucially, Wunder was able to use the Aatrox kit as well as the flash just to stay alive and not concede anything at all. So first blood goes to G2. Really nicely set up play. Jankos will be ecstatic that he could use Sejuani's kit to help make that happen.
Yeah, and he's not really going to lose anything off the back of it either. So good stuff overall. We can see that Mikyx hanging around the mid lane, leeching some XP to get that level 3. And just covering for Perkz as he pushes in that wave. I wanted to talk a little bit more about this mid wave, but we kind of got to backtrack and recap all the action that's happened early, because let's not forget, one of the big things that we talked about for Mad was they wanted to try and get their bot lane ahead. Something about Kalista is that she spikes very hard in the early to mid game. She has very strong trading power, especially once she hits level 6. She has so much gank setup with her ultimate that it's just a very easy lane to play around. And she's also very effective at diving, just because when you have Taric and Kalista, like that's a lot of anti-mitigation tower damage that makes these dives possible. But because all summoner spells are now gone for Carzzy, the flash is now gone for Kaiser, Caps and Mikyx are able to get a slight item advantage, because you'll notice Caps sitting on the Corfiel's Warhammer already. Meanwhile, Carzzy only sitting with some attack speed. It's actually working out nicely for G2 as they're able to sit on advantages in the bot side of the map.
Can I give you a fun fact really quick, Thaddeus?
I love fun facts.
I do. I like to call them quick stats, actually. Do you know this is the very first professional game of Silas for Perkz ever?
Really?
Do you want to know why?
Why?
Do you know what role he was playing when the champion was released?
Wait, but I also thought...
Thank you! That was fantastic! Whoever gave me the chant, for those of you who couldn't hear, some phenomenal fans here in Berlin chanted ADC. We call it bot now. You need to keep up with the terminology, right? That's why you can't be a shoutcaster. They're bot laners.
I just love how aggressively polite he is. He's just like, thank you for showing. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Genuinely, first professional game on Silas, and Perkz is showing a mastery in the mid lane. Of course, he's coming up against LeBlanc, somebody he's no stranger to. And what I'm looking forward to is a champion that's been very recently released and set. Once Perkz is able to hijack the showstopper and just see how that animation is going to play out. That will be a lot of fun to see.
So this also gives me a very brief opportunity to talk about this matchup. For those unaware, Silas now maxes W. While he may have taken E level 1 for effective trades, the W, the heal, is primarily what you look to take. And the thing about it is it now gives you a flat health value, and it scales along with how much health that you're missing. Very similar to how it was in the past, but the flat health value makes it so much more effective when it comes to these early trades. The thing about LeBlanc is she loves short, intermittent bursts, and she likes to whittle you down in the lane while also shoving out the wave. But the great thing about Silas is that every time you try to dive on top of him, he can chase you down with his E, he can heal off the damage that you've done with his W, and he gets to push the wave just as fast because of his passive and his large number and the AoE that comes off of his Q. So while it can be a bit of a skill matchup because it's very easy to misplay in the early laning phase, what Perkz has demonstrated is, as you'll see, you try to jump in and you're just going to get out-traded every time you try to make that trade happen.
And of course, I'm not going to have a huge amount of hope on the side of Humanoid that Perkz will outplay. Now notice, no flash for Carzzy, no flash for Kaiser, but no level 6 for Jankos either.
I'm not going to make this play. I feel like... Oh, I really felt like they could have made that gank happen. Maybe they're a little afraid of the teleport that's sitting on top of Orome right now, and they don't want to take the gamble of him TPing in.
Vedius, at what point do we get worried for Mad Lions? Because we talked a lot about them being an early game composition, wanting to get ahead.
I mean, I'd already be worried.
That was what I was hoping you would say, but I wasn't emboldened enough to throw it
it's not like doomed right now because the gold is very even, but in a top lane matchup where Set typically has the priority, and because Wunder definitely has no jungle assistance, Wunder should not be in the position that he's currently in. Look, he's sitting with a 16 CS advantage already. He currently has about a 250 gold lead. Like, Wunder's playing extremely well in the top lane. Perkz is not getting hard out bullied in the mid lane. He's actually going very even with Humanoid. You can see the gold is very, very close. Meanwhile, advantages are in the bot lane for G2.
Yep.
So the lane that Mad was trying to play through has not worked out for them so far. And things right now are not looking great for Mad, especially when you know that G2 scale very well into the later game.
I'll be theorizing a little bit because I actually kind of forgot that there was a top lane matchup. Set versus Aatrox is something we've seen so often over the course of the weekend, and there was a lot more action, obviously, in the mid and the bottom lanes, but we won't get a chance to talk about that.
I think we're going to get another fight, quick shot.
Rift Herald has been started. 4 members of Mad are available. Humanoid can come in from the south. All 5 members of G2 are here.
Here comes Jankos.
But that is a bajillion and a half Callista Spears. That Rend should be able to do a lot of damage, but the Fate's Call comes out. Defensive flash over from Jankos. The Herald will reset and repeat. Humanoid's going to be the target, and he escapes for now. Ethereal Chains lock down Perkz, and now G2 move away. 5v5, Shadow goes in. Forced to flash out. The Dragon's Rage not doing anything. Nobody dies, and nor does the Rift Heralds.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what happened there, but keep an eye on Mikyx.
He's gonna go in, flash dredge line followed up. Humanoid's burning down. The Ignite should not be enough to kill him. And it looks like the Rift Herald was started by Mad. Have they got enough to finish it? Again, Ren stats combined with Smite, double team those ones. Dredge line finds a target. Kaiser, no ultimate.
Wow, Cap stole it!
Cap stole it! Shadow escaped to the sliver of his life. Make it rain comes out. Shadow's in so much trouble, and now so is Orome. He gets taken out by Jankos. Caps, how did he steal it through what I thought was a unstealable with the red?
He just shot it in the eye! Quick shot! He literally just walked up and he was like, pew! And just shot it straight in the eye! And then he just took it away! Mad was left blinded from that play as Caps just swaggers on up like, oh, we gotta get a slow-mo of this. We have to get a...
give you a slow clap. Mad Lions were left...
Rend, Smite, and Caps is just like, pew! You wanna go to town with me? No! Insta-shot. Unreal. It was literally like one of those westerns, you know, where Caps was like, it's time to draw, and then he's just pew pew. Yeah, Perfect. I felt like I was in the Wild West. Quick shot, perfectly done.
I have to just give a credit for that. Mad Lions were left blinded by that play is next level smooth. Well played, Vedius. But G2, if Mad Lions were worried before, now they're going to be hella worried.
It's just kind of sad, because that's one of those things that's just really unfortunate, and you're like, your mid laner gets forced out, you survive the play, and then you just lose Rift Herald when you shouldn't have.
And you've got this early game composition that really wants to be building tempo and you know, proactive plays across the map. Now Caps has got the Herald that he can throw down pretty much anywhere. And Perkz cannot be caged apparently, as he's going to hijack away the Mimic from Humanoid. Gonna dash away. Jankos still the ultimate available, but there was some support for Humanoid in the mid lane. G2, 11 minutes on the clock, 1,500 gold up.
Now, what does surprise me is some of the animation that we're seeing from Perkz. Not the fact that he's prioritizing the Luden's Echo, but the fact that he didn't rush Merc Treads. Often what you'll see in LeBlanc matchups is an early animation of the magic resistance, which he's now going to pick up. But during the early laning phase, I would highly recommend solo queue players pick it up, because it really mitigates a lot of the burst damage that comes out from the LeBlanc. And I think that it's just a very effective tool that just makes the LeBlanc's life harder. So yeah, interesting animation there, but as you can see on your screen right now, sides being traded, G2 actually holding on, slowly working their way through the plates before the resistances build up, and now they're going to use the Rift Herald when the plates are only about 2 left so they can completely take out the tower, and this is optimal usage of the Rift Herald.
Really nicely done, but keep in mind, Mad Lions are sieging in 2 lanes, so tower goes down in the top. 4 members of Mad Lions going forward, and that's an unkillable Mad, but so does Wunder for the time being. Finally, he will go down. It's Humanoid that picks up the kill. He's able to escape for now. Here comes Jankos. Got the ultimate available and manages to lock down Orome. 1-for-1. Kaiser gets dredge-lined backwards, but the damage from Perkz needs to follow up. And what goes up must go down. Jankos 2-0-2. 100% kill participation on the party pig.
And G2 are going to convert it into another tower in the top lane as well, while our observers show us that the bot tower remains alive. Yes, Mad get themselves their first kill of the game, but G2 convert it into so much more.
That just feels bad, man.
Yes, it does.
Really, really does. But I think G2, what was the word you used for the win yesterday? It wasn't the cleanest? Do you think this is feeling a little better?
No, it's not. What are you talking about? Like, don't get me wrong. There are some things that G2 have done well this game. Like, that Rift Herald, a little lucky.
Okay.
I also think that the execution of this dive from Mad, not really optimal. So I think that, like, we're seeing a couple of errors from Mad. And, like, when we think back to week 1, one of the things that this matchup showcased was actually Mad had the stronger comp, but G2 played so well in the mid game that you could see the experience difference in the team. And while I think the Mad have showcased improvement throughout this split, they have also showcased an element of consistency, because they've actually demonstrated a wide array of drafts. They've actually tried quite a few different things, and sometimes it's worked out really well for them and they look really clean. Like, their game versus Fnatic was extremely good, but other times it doesn't, and they've attempted an early game comp against a team that, if you make mistakes against G2, they're very quick to punish you, right?
Oh, yes.
And so when you're going to attempt to play an early game comp against G2, you have to play it near flawlessly. And unfortunately for Mad, there have just been a couple of mis-executions that we've seen. In the top lane dive, Shadow missed his Q. I think he actually missed it twice, which so really hurt their ability to set up the dive. When Orome tried to make that flash W happen, obviously Wunder held his flash and outplayed it. And of course, like, it's a two-way thing in the sense that Wunder
did... or did someone dodge?
Yeah, it's a thing where Wunder does do some good things to outplay that situation, but like a small element of mis-execution is ultimately what's hurting Mad, and now, like, they need to make a very big play happen in order to regain some control over this game, because it's very rapidly snowballing in G2's favor.
Yeah, I mean, we're approaching a 3,000 gold lead, actually just over it, before the 15-minute mark. 2 towers to 0, 1 dragon apiece. Itemization-wise, Blade of the Ruined King was just picked up by Carzzy a moment ago, versus the Essence Reaver and the Pickaxe sitting in Caps' back pocket. Yeah, Blasting Wand, rather, has been picked up by Perkz, as well as his double Dorns, but it is versus a completed Ludens for Humanoid, who did a whole lot of damage onto Wunder just a moment ago.
Oh, he's going for this. Shadow is there.
Wunder's going to be chasing, but look at this. Wunder's doing a lot of damage with the World Ender. Has just dinged level 11, but in a 2v1, like, that was pretty much going to happen. Jankos, however, he's brought a party. Humanoid can W back to the original distort, and the target's going to be Shadow instead. He's going to be able to ward hop to safety for now.
Not any damage, just Sejuani, Nautilus.
Exactly, that's why I'm not
Oh, nice interrupt.
Perkz, however, has jumped onto Humanoid, as now Jankos is going to be zoned away. That's going to be the suppression stolen away from the hijack, rather. Fate's Call into Cosmic Radiance means Mad Lions, they have been able to find a punish on G2 because G2 overchased. Mad Lions are back in this game for now.
I literally just said Mad needs some kind of crazy play to come back into that, and G2's like, oh, well, yeah, we can make that. Sure, we'll do that. We'll give that to you. And they give kill after kill. Like, that was so greedy from G2. And Mad was just like, all right, we'll just take all this. 3 quick kills. They kept themselves a Rift Herald. So much gold has now gone into the pocket of this LeBlanc. And in a 1v1 in isolation, Wunder's like, yeah, okay, I think this can work. And he also sees his team rotating up. So the idea behind it is solid. He just doesn't expect Shadow to be sitting in this brush. Then caps the damage, tries to cut off the escape of Shadow, but then Jankos and Mikyx between them just don't have the damage to get the kill. Mikyx did have his ultimate, which he chooses not to use, but I don't think it would have resulted in a lot anyway. Then Perkz is like, okay, I've got to interrupt the flank. Like, good idea in theory, but now he realizes, oh wait, now I'm 1 versus 4. He tries to use his ultimate to get out of over the wall, but it's not enough. And G2 end up losing so many kills. Now we see another fight in the bot lane. Let's see how this one pans out.
Perkz has got himself that hijacked showstopper, looking for a target. Caps is in the mid lane, as is Humanoid. And the 4v4 doesn't go anywhere. It's a minute and a half until the Cloud Drake next. And for the time being, it is still a big advantage for G2. 1,500 gold in the lead. We've mentioned it several times already, but their team competition scales. Wow, that's a dead Humanoid. No, it's not just yet. The Ignite burning. I don't think that's enough just yet, especially not with the shield. I really thought Humanoid was going down. Perkz has not got himself an ulti to use for now, and Humanoid escapes with his life. But look at this, Mad Lions, they're pushing with the Rift Herald. They're on the wrong side.
Yeah, but they haven't cleared out the minion wave yet. Now the Herald is in a position to siege. Mad is actually being forced back. Oh, so this will end up paying dividends for G2 as they secure themselves the final... Oh, no, there's still a bot out of tower left. Didn't notice that one. But in any case, another tower goes into their back pocket. Drake is spawning in about a minute's time. If we have a quick look at some of the vision that is available for both sides, we can see, if my button works. My button doesn't work. Anyway. Right, that was going to be way cooler than I thought it was, but my buttons don't work. So if you guys, just use your eyes. Just look really closely at the minimap, because I can't make it bigger. Thank you, lad. Thank you very much. So, thank you, observers, for highlighting that. Thank you so much for highlighting. You can see there's a lot of deep vision invested on Mad towards the bot side of the Drake, so they have a lot of flanking TPs, but there's no TP available. Meanwhile, Humanoid has found Perkz.
He has indeed. A lot of damage returned, though. Here comes Carzzy. Humanoid, with the help of Carzzy, they just blow Perkz up, and this is going to allow Mad Lions to siege in the mid lane. There will be some defense here from G2, but there's a Cloud Drake that can peel to Dredgeline, catches out on Carzzy, Cosmic Radiance comes down. That will save their lives, but for any ensuing fight, that could be problematic.
Okay, so the Drake has now been started by Shadow, of course with a numbers advantage. G2 shouldn't feel that confident going for this play, but there's no one in the river, which gives G2 access to just literally walk up, take it, and leave. Okay. Okay.
This has been a really fun mid-game.
This is a weird game. This is such a weird game. Oh my word. Anyway, well, we're having fun. So, let's just take stock of the situation, all right? LeBlanc is now 4-0-0. She has a completed Ludens, and she's now working towards what I imagine will be a death cap. She may have just picked up a rod. She may go Oblivion Orb afterwards. I actually think getting some... Oh, he made the buttons work.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Right,
I'll give Vedius the tools back to share the information.
You fixed the buttons, right, but I don't need that right now. I want to talk about the items first, because LeBlanc is really strong, and this is a problem for G2, especially at this point in the game, because she is so effective at finding picks and looking for poke, and thanks, and especially when she gets that death cap completed, there is very little magic resistance completed on the side of G2, which means that Humanoid is just going to be able to run around and one-shot a bunch of G2 members, which can then act as a boat. A boat? Oh, I've lost it. I've lost the plot. I meant as like a bridge. A bridge is the word that I
Do you know that boats cannot go in bridges in most places in the world? Only, I believe, in the Netherlands do they actually have bridges for very small ferries and
I need a break.
rafts.
You speak for a bit. You speak for a bit, quick shot.
Let's see whether Humanoid can find himself this boat to the late game, as Mad Lions still are behind G2. They are still down in gold, down in dragons, but they do have themselves that extra kill. Carzzy has picked himself up the Hurricane to complement the Blade of the Ruined King, while Caps is sitting on Infinity Edge, and Wunder will take down the 4th tower while it is traded in the top lane.
All right, so Mad are now setting up vision control around the top side of the map. As you can see by pressing my button, a lot of vision is being set up around this objective. So this gives a lot of control for Mad in the river, but a pick is now happening.
It has indeed, and the boat is sinking as Humanoid gets taken out by Perkz. 5 kills to 5, and when your most fed member gets caught out like that, it is going to be a problem.
Yeah, because it gives a big shutdown gold onto Perkz as well. Oh, I actually really like that Perkz stole away Humanoid's ultimate, and then he used the stolen ultimate to actually land Humanoid's own Q on him as he tried to flash away, resulting in a very quick kill. So, beautiful stuff there. Wunder can be like, hello, Orome.
He is indeed going to try to challenge for some of these Krugs. At least look at the minimap though. Numbers advantage in favor of Mad Lions. And this looks to be just a quick replay as Perkz and Mikyx, they're going to be able to interrupt this play. Taking the blast cone over, fully aware of his position.
Yeah, I'm curious as to, I mean, they must have been aware that he was basing in the, they must have seen him go into that brush, but the fact that Mikyx just did that blind was very cool, able to find that quick pick. Good utilization of the cloud map, I suppose.
Cloud Rift.
Yeah, it really increases your ability to rotate from one lane to another just because of the bonus movement speed that you get from walking along it. Humanoid definitely was not expecting that. Humanoid, though, still a whole level above Perkz. Still definitely strong. Yes, you can see here, thank you, observers, for highlighting. So obviously they knew that he was going in the brush. And yeah, still, blind, flash, hook. I say flash, didn't even need the flash, able to land it.
Something to point out, Vedius.
Thank you, quick shot,
that death cap has now become available, and that means that additional damage will be valuable for Humanoid. But again, it is this time in the game where the window of opportunity is beginning to shrink, right? Humanoid, at the time being, is inside the river, south of the mid lane, and gonna find some ability. As Wunder, I think, just was outside that vision radius. And for Mad Lions, they are still the ones that need to pull off something impressive. Death Dance completed for Wunder as he's recalled. Their team fighting, I think, it'll be a little cleaner, a little easier to pull off, and they've got the advantage already, and they're in the lead.
So, what is interesting is we're talking about Mad seemingly having control over the game right now, even though they're at effectively a 3k gold deficit. And the reason why I want to bring attention to the gold, a lot of it sits on top of Wunder right now. He's where a lot of the gold advantage is coming from, and the jungle as well. But Humanoid is strong, and Carzzy is very relevant. While Caps does have about a 1k gold lead over him, that's resulted in a Hex Drinker, which is not going to be the difference maker, which means that right now the carries, because they do damage like this.
Let's find out how much damage the chains are gonna pop.
That's gonna kill him.
Humanoid's gonna sidestep everything. That was
quick shot.
Beautiful. The death cap did it all.
This is the boat. This is the boat that we were talking about. Finding a huge pick onto Wunder means that they can now move towards the Drake. This can secure this objective, and they need to keep looking for picks like this to propel the game forward.
Vedius, you know I'm an old man. I've been on boats with big sails.
Yeah.
When you have cloud rifts and the wind is bellowing in your sails,
you need to stop. You're killing the boat, Joe. You killed the boat, Joe.
All right. But what will this actually mean? I mean, look, Humanoid at 5-1.
Don't encourage him. Do not encourage him. We've already been too goofy this
Huge
cast.
kudos to the Berlin crowd this whole weekend. You have yelled and screamed and celebrated, and it is so enjoyable to cast the games in this venue. If anybody is out there that wants to come watch live, you guys have to make it down. It's such a great atmosphere, and we still have another game to play. But I want to go back to what this means.
Let's focus in.
Can Humanoid 1v9 this game?
Well, it depends on the circumstances that he finds himself in. On the one hand, yes, he is level 15. He has 2 fully completed items. I think he's working towards a Void Staff next, which, to be honest, the only reason why he'd get it is to shred through the magic resistance sitting on top of Caps right now. But it's so difficult for G2 to just face check Fog of War because of the pick potential that Humanoid is able to exert right now.
Still feels a little bit like G2 are waiting for their opportunity. Dredge
That's huge.
Out. Humanoid, I'm sorry, I cast it. The caster curse indeed, but the Cosmic Raiders are doing a lot. Follow Carzzy, follow Carzzy! There are so many spears! The Red needs to do a lot of damage though. Push the button! Manages to take down one of the Caps. Kaiser and Carzzy are doing so much work. Despite losing Humanoid, the Cosmic Radiance from Kaiser manages to pick up 4 and open up the Baron.
Carzzy comes up clutch in that fight after Humanoid loses his life. The secondary carry is there to pick up the slack. We talked about how the goal for Mad was sitting on the 2 primary carries, and it pays off there. Mad will now secure the Baron against G2 Esports. And this game has very quickly flipped on its head.
And also, it really demonstrates the impact you were talking about in picks and bans, Vedius. The anti-team fight power that a Kalista and Tara can combine to do. It doesn't matter what AoE or CC or damage you have on G2 if there's a Cosmic Radiance on Mad timed correctly.
So this was a big mistake from Humanoid. He should have known that they were in there, but as you rightly said, the Taric ultimate comes out onto all 4 members. So this Kalista is just building up Ren stacks, slowly working her way through the G2 lineup. There's no peel for Cap, so he gets dives on top of, and then Jankos is forced out because there's nothing he can do. The damage just, it didn't stick onto Mads, which meant that they were able to come out on top. Now they've equalized the gold, and you can see how much work Carzzy did in that last fight. He now has a GA to add insult to injury, and at first we were skeptical. Could could Mad execute this very early game focus comp, but with, oh no.
Blast Cone didn't go well. Is there enough members of G2 nearby? No. Jankos will get skewered, and that's some more bacon for the Mad Lions. And we'll be able to take out the boar. The kill is actually, I think they tried to donate it elsewhere, but it ends up going the way of Kaiser. 35 seconds without Sejuani, without the ultimate, and Baron empowered Mad on the siege.
I mean, G2 is struggling right now. And we have to go back to when they threw in that top lane play, giving away 3 kills, giving the Rift Herald, all of that gold going onto the LeBlanc. We talked about how important that was, and we're now seeing the impact of it because it allowed Mad to just get to a point where they can now pressure, where they can now win these fights, and G2 are going to have to stall the game out so much longer because we're seeing how difficult it actually is for this G2 composition to team fight against Mad Comp, and they go in onto Caps.
So nicely done from Shadow! That was a great ward kick. He manages to set it up and pick Caps out from underneath the tower. When Misfits lost in the previous game, the winning streak ended, the team in first place dropped down. G2 had the opportunity to win this and take sole control of the league. We introed the game saying, can Mad Lions pull off another upset? And I did not believe it, I did not predict it. And they are on the precipice of defeating G2 and ending the regular season record at 1-1 with this team. Look at this, all 3 inhibitor lanes are under pressure. The tower in the top will go down in a moment or two to Orome as inhibitor mid falls, and now Orome's jumping onto Jankos.
Mad are just styling on G2 right now. Here comes another fight.
Oh, Kaiser, that is such a good Cosmic Radiance again. I think every single Taric ultimate has been impactful, but now it is on cooldown. G2 Esports have an opportunity to respond. It has to be now. 10 seconds left for Baron. All 3 inhibitors are down. Shadow goes in. He finds Perkz. Perkz had flash available, but he did not get an opportunity to use it. Shadow missed the Sonic Waves in the laning phase, but he did not miss them when the game needed to be delivered. And now the teleport's coming back in for Orome in the top lane. Caps will be trying to do some wave clear here. No ulti from Jankos, but Caps does have that bullet time available. And there goes the engage from Zed. Mikyx knocked up into the air and take it down. The bullet time simply will not do enough damage. First Nexus turret will
Let's get a kill.
4 members of Mad Lions will retreat.
But G2's base is in tatters right now. They've lost all 3 inhibitors. There's a Cloud Drake up for grabs for Mad, and they've played this game so well after a single team fight 1 in the top lane, where it felt like G2 were just snowballing the game out of control early on. We're now seeing the difference in this, Mad. It's funny because we were talking about how there was an experience gap at the beginning of the split where it didn't really matter what Mad did. They were just kind of getting outclassed by G2. But now, that one mistake that G2 made has snowballed into this situation for Mad. They have just played so aggressively, so cleanly, and while sure, G2 have been able to find a couple picks here and there, when one member falls behind, the other members pick up the slack. And this Mad squad is showcasing right now the growth that they have made from week 1 to week 5 as they are so close to taking down G2 Esports.
Absolutely fantastic. Mad Lions, I look at the gold graph there, 25 minutes, and look, you have to call it out. G2 put themselves in a position, they made mistakes, but Humanoid at first was there to capitalize.
Yep.
And once Humanoid had created the space for Carzzy and Kaiser to, you know, step up to the plate, they did. 4-0-7 on Carzzy, and Orome goes in with the help of the rest of the squad. Mikyx is already dead. The Cosmic Radiance once again preventing any sort of reply from G2 Esports. Jankos goes down and Humanoid looks for yet another. Mad Lions, the ship has sailed. And they take down G2.
Impressive win from Mad. I was worried in the early game. I thought that they drafted a comp and they were not going to be able to execute upon it. But the moment that opportunity presented itself, they were quick to capitalize. They moved around the map extremely well. And we got to see the power of this Kalista turret combo. It changes the way teamfights have to be played, because if you're not able to disengage, stall out, wait, then that Kalista just builds up all these stacks on her passive, and then she just melts the entire team.
I am so confused with the results today, Bedius. Yesterday's games were fairly one-sided, were fairly quick, fairly dominant victories. Today, we've had much slower games, much more back and forth, and interesting decision-making, shall we say, and execution, right? It's been a discussion-heavy day worth of results, but Mad Lions come in at 5-4. They now go 6-4 after taking down G2. Your recommendations for key player of the game over at LEC on Twitter: Humanoid, Carzzy, and Kaiser. It's actually a really difficult choice for me.
For sure.
I think Humanoid was the man that put Carzzy and Kaiser in a position to help bring it home. But, you know, they all played a role, and you cannot underestimate the power of these new young teams and players.
Yeah, I think Carzzy and Kaiser really deserve a big shout out, because you're right, like, Humanoid, he was also one of the players that did get caught out once or twice, and you think at that point like, ooh, okay, maybe G2 then used this to get back into the game, but when the chips were down, it was the bot lane that was able to step up, and you're right, you could give it to any of them, they're all deserving, and you know, I don't want to take anything away from Mad, because sure, they did capitalize on one mistake, but from then on, it was their game, it was their control, it was them that was dictating the pace, and it felt like G2 just had no answers.
If you're a fan at home, your perspective, whether you're a pessimist, optimist, glass half full, glass half empty, yes, G2 made mistakes. We're not denying, we're not trying to hide that.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
You have to be good enough to catch those mistakes and those throws and punishes. And then what they did following, like when you saw the outplays from Humanoid, the team fight from Carzzy and Kaiser, you cannot deny they executed those well.
And now we have to start asking